Hello to anyone watching this. X was my first Pokemon game, and therefore it's my favourite Pokemon game. So when in the last Pokemon Presents they announced that there would be a new Legends game set in Kalos, I just felt like all of my life choices were vindicated at once. And while it's nice to see people mentioning Kalos for the sake of speculating on the new game's story or how exactly a game only set in Lumio City is going to work, I think the most interesting thing to talk about with this new game is what the starter Pokemon are going to be. Because for me at least, it was a lot of fun seeing a trio of previous starters be brought back and given new final evolutions for Legends Arceus, and I'm really interested in seeing what trio they're going to go for this time. So today I just wanted to have a go at predicting ZA's starter trio, just from looking at the patterns from the one previous game and applying them to this new game. Like, I have absolutely no credibility for this, and I'll absolutely be making up the rules as I go along, but you know what, it's just fun sometimes to have a guess at things. Like, the only possible achievements that this video can have is that either someone likes some of the rules that I make up and can apply them to their own speculation, or that I'm completely right about everything that I say here, and that people start to say that I've been provided with the gift of prophecy, and you know, I can just let that go to my head and I'll start to feel like a god, and you know, just fun things like that. So let's get speculating, starting with which generations I think they're going to pick the starters from. Now, there is every chance that they're going to pick multiple Pokemon from the same generation, or they're just going to give us Gen 6's starters with Mega Evolutions and call it a day. But for the sake of this, I'm going to assume that they're going to do the same as last time, where they pick one Pokemon from 3 different generations. As for what those generations could be, I think the best method for figuring it out is, you know, simple process of elimination. So let's just throw up all of the different generations on screen and just cross off the ones that I don't think make sense to be chosen. And to be fair, I think we can clear off most of the board quite easily. Like, I don't think they're going to use a starter from the most recent generation or the generation that this game is based on. Like, both of those rules are applicable to Legends Arceus' starter trio, and I just think they make sense. You know, you don't want to overexpose the most recent starters, and I found it really nice how Gen 4 starters were sort of scattered about Hisui, and I think it'd be really sweet to see that with Gen 6's starters around Lumiose, you know? As for the less justifiable easy generations to cross off, I don't think they're going to use starters from generations 2, 5 or 7, just because they were chosen for Legends Arceus. Like, it's totally feasible for the devs to want to double dip representation for these generations in the Legends games, but I just think it's more fun if they go for completely different generations this time. It'll feel a lot more fresh to me. So if you agree with all of the rules that I've laid out so far, we're down to just 4 generations already. And there's no real rules for the last one I'm going to cross off, but we really don't need another version of a Gen 1 starter. You know, let's just cross that off, so there's absolutely no chance of that happening. I think pretty much everyone can agree we do not need a Generation 1 starter in this trio. So yeah, that leaves us with generations 3, 4 and 8. You know, it's quite a eclectic little trio, and 4 and 8 are my favourite numbers out of this selection of 9, so I don't really think you can go wrong with this lot. So now let's look into which 3 out of these 9 individual Pokemon they might choose to make up this trio. So do bear with me on this. Let's look back at the Hisuian starter Pokemon's final forms and sort of what they represent in terms of Legends Arceus's overall theme. Like, I'm probably thinking about it wrong or too simplistically so that it fits the idea that I'm going for, but a lot of that game revolved around like tradition and spirituality and how that comes to clash with the emerging acceptance of Pokemon as part of people's daily lives. And I think that the Hisuian final forms are really good at representing that. Like, Typhlosion, of course, very much represents, Japanese ideas of spirits, and Decidueye and Samurott both represent different types of warriors from back then. Like, I'm definitely making a mountain out of a molehill here, but I very much think that the starters that they went for are purposefully used to represent in some way the ideas that the game's story is going for. Even if it's not too explicit, you can sort of look at them and be like, yes, they represent this game. And so I want to try and apply that logic to Legend ZA, so I'm about to go out on a limb and guess what this game's story is, but based on the teaser trailer that we got, I think that you'll be able to understand how I've come to the conclusions that I have here. So in the trailer there are obviously a lot of shots of schematics and blueprints for Lumiose City under the banner of urban development plans, so it's quite easy to assume that this game is going to be set around the building of modern Lumiose City. And since this is more than likely based on things that happened in real-life France, we can assume that this setting is based on the development of modern Paris in the 19th century during the time of the Industrial Revolution. And based on all of that, I think that the Pokemon's role in this story is that they're sort of evolving to become more helpful as tools for humans' development, but at the same time proper technology is starting to appear that helps humans even more, so it's going to be sort of how much are Pokemon helping us now. And so I think that in the same way that a lot of Hisuian forms are based on Japanese culture from back then, I think that a lot of Colossian forms are going to be based on pre-industrial tools for like farming, building, all of that. Now obviously that doesn't sound quite as exciting as forms based on Japanese culture, but I think that there's enough interesting tools and machines from back then that can easily be used to inspire very interesting new Colossian forms, and I also think that's more than applicable to the starters. And in terms of my main concept for what the trio could represent, I really like the idea of them all being a part of the mining process, as that was one of France's biggest industries back then, and maybe in terms of story, when you get teleported to the past, you could end up near a mining facility and get taken in, and you pick your starter from there. So the starters that I'm going to go for and my concept for their Colossian form are a grass steel Sceptile, where his tail is used a lot for drilling, a fire rock Cinderace, where his love of football and kicking stuff is translated into punting rocks and ores out of the mining shaft, and a water ground Empoleon, where his hand flipper fin thingies are used more as scoops to help transport dirt out of the mining shafts. So yeah, I know that was a lot of build up for 30 seconds of payoff, but I just wanted to be thorough and make it clear how I came to the conclusions that I did, Also, I'm fully aware that Mega Evolution is coming back, and in this scenario I do think that Empoleon and Cinderace would get new differently typed Mega Evolutions, and Sceptile can just keep his from the Gen 3 remakes, because You know, it's already a different type, and Mega Evolution is a big fancy thing that doesn't have to completely connect to what the current form of the Pokemon is. So I just think it makes sense for all three of them to just get any Mega Evolutions that the developers want to give to them. And yeah, it might be a bit odd that one of the Pokemon will already have a Mega Evolution while the others won't, and the other Gen 3 starters probably aren't coming back. But sometimes in trios like this, there's just one special case in some way, you know? Someone's just got to stand out, and I think this is one of those cases where it just kinda adds up. Like, I don't really think that it's worth discounting the Gen 3 starters just because they've already had Mega Evolutions, you know? So those are all of my ideas for this game's starter trio. Like I said, this was all just for fun, you know, we'll see how the game all ends up, but I don't know, I just really love making guesses like this, you know, this is really fun to think about, and even if I didn't make this video, I'd still probably be really rooting for my idea of a mining-based starter trio, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you have any questions or concerns, do let me know. Just, it is a shame that I had to discount Gen 7 quite early on when considering what starters I'd want to bring in. You know, like I said, all of this talk about industry and construction, and we're not even going to get a chance to see Incineroar's builder's bum, you know, it's a real tragedy. But bye-bye, have a nice day.